All right, go ahead.
This is Penelope Jean Hayes joining Trey Downs on his podcast, Your Superior Self.
And this is Carole Serene Borgens joining Trey Downs on his podcast, Your Superior Self.
You guys are professionals. You've done this
Well,
before.
we
Aim,
have.
aim to please.
So I have two wonderful guests tonight, Penelope and Carole. Thank you so much for joining. I just received, well, I didn't just receive it. I've been reading your book, Due Unto Earth, which is a channel text. Very interesting stuff, very important stuff because it has a lot to do with this earth and some some of the ways we've been mistreating it, what we should be doing better. And it is channeled through Carole does the channeling, correct? And it's through an entity called Pax. Is that right?
That's correct.
I love it. I love it. So why don't you let's do this, Carole? Since I have both of you on here, let's a little bit of background on you. Like, how did you become a channeler, and how did you get into this field?
Being a channeler is a gift. It came to me from Spirit. It was intended. It's my purpose in this lifetime to be a channel that brings through wisdom and guidance. I am a medium, an animal communicator, a healer, a channeler. And it was in, the mid 1990s when I was already working as a channeler, when I was introduced to Pax. He came through in my writing. I channel by automatic writing. While I was at my desk channeling other spirit energy, the flow was interrupted, the handwriting changed, and it was Pax coming through with the question, would I agree to be his channel, because Spirit sees that our world is in disarray. Quite frankly, it's out of balance. And they had guidance for us. And if I would agree to channel what that would be, put it into book form and get it out to the world, we could go ahead with that. Well, I found that rather intimidating, understanding the responsibility attached. So I asked if I could have a week or so to consider it, which I did. I did not take it lightly. And I agreed and have been working with Pax ever since on different levels. I have been giving private reading sessions for people ever since that time, spending quite an emphasis with Pax on visiting people's past lifetimes to help them understand what is a barrier to their current progress towards success.
That's
We
awesome.
also channeled 2 children's books earlier on, and filled with inspiration and empowerment for children. So that's been my journey. Before then, I was a nurse and a number of different careers, but since being tapped, if you will, by Spirit, it's just my greatest joy and my greatest blessing in life to channel every day. And then, of course, it progressed. I met Penelope, and she can talk to you about how that happened.
Sure. So over to you, Penelope. How did you guys get together and form this dynamic duo?
Sure. It's a trio, actually, with
Or
Pax.
trio? Yeah. Excuse me.
He
He
says,
actually,
we 3 are a good team, he says.
yes, he has told us that. So the work that I do is in the field of viral-en-olo-gy. I'm the founder of the Viral Energy Institute. And the book that I had written, this one here, is The Magic of Viral Energy. So I was working on viral energy, and viral energy is the contagious nature of energy and social interactions and the environments all around us. So we know that a laughter is contagious, the smile is infectious, that sort of thing. And through that work, the next book that I was moving into was to be titled Due Unto Earth. And it was taking the viral energy message from personal and interpersonal to a global planetary scale. And the Viral Energy Institute focuses quite a bit on environmental repair and environmental solutions. So this is what I was working on, and I had gone to Carole as a channeler. She had worked. She still works as a channeler, and I had gone to her for several channeling sessions, wanting to know just the future of this mission. How were things going to go? How was the book going to get published? Who would be the publisher? That sort of thing. Just wanting kind of peace of mind that I was on the right track with that. So one day I got contact from Carole saying that Pax, who's the spirit energy that she channels, wished to offer support and wisdom for the Viral Energy Institute. So this, of course, Trey, was incredibly exciting. Spirit wants to help you with what you're doing. So that was tremendous. And so we started. I was on book tour, and probably 5 or 6 weeks later, when I returned from tour, Carole and I jumped in immediately. I think it was the day after I landed. We immediately started where I sent her 10 questions to ask Pax, and the answers were returned. And after doing that for a very short period of time, we were looking at it going, this is, it's kind of reading like a book. And so I thought, I wonder if this is the book titled Due Unto Earth, if it was meant to be that book. So my questions are based on what I was working on, because Pax just let me have at it. And what I was working on are these topics. And so it was forming up to be, it was looking like a book. And so Carole did check in with Pax to say, is this meant to be a book? And is it to adopt the title Due Unto Earth? And of course the answer was yes. And here we are today. So the entire book, you've been reading it, Trey. You see what a large and beautiful book it is. And this entire book was channeled and written in, I'm going to say like 2 months, a very short period of time. And then there was a period of the editing, the publishing process, but it happened very quickly. And we like to say it's a love letter to humanity. It's a very upbeat in terms of environmental repair. It's about solutions, not just a litany of our problems on this planet. And I'm sure that you will find that it's intriguing and quite fun to read. It's kind of a page turner for sure.
Oh, no, absolutely. I love how you, I could definitely tell, your questions are very well thought. Like, I feel like you're asking questions that I would ask Pax, right? Like, I feel that I'm very connected to that. And the one thing that I want to read, it has been like, I don't know, it just makes you feel good, right? Like it's like a warm hug kind of quote here. So I'm going to go ahead and read. So Penelope, I guess she asks or states here, more than anything, we need to believe that we have the power to change our lives and the world. Yet it's hard. It's a hard thing for most of us to believe that we have the power within ourselves. It's like assuring a high schooler that they will ace a PhD dissertation someday, even though that moment is so far in their reality's future. And yet, you know what it will be, And Pax says, set the intention, believe in self, and trust in the outcome. That is it, the holy grail of empowerment. You know how many times I've doubted myself? Like, alone with the podcast and like what my mission is and what am I supposed to do? There's so much suffering in the world. Like, how can I help that? And, the meditations that I'm doing, I feel like I'm connecting with that source that is higher than myself and what I deem to be God. And like, I think that was like, Pax talking to me saying, you need to love yourself, more self-love and believe in yourself. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm personally delighted that you resonated so strongly with that. It is a message for us to take to our hearts. And it's also one of the enduring messages through all of our work with Pax. He wishes to empower us. He wants to help us with self-empowerment, because without that, we're stuck.
Yeah.
And he just wants us to know, you've got it. You can do this.
Well, it's that self-doubt, right? We always look for others. We look at their success and we want that for ourselves, and we don't know how to get it. And we doubt. When we start doubting ourselves, we can't connect with that higher source and figure it out for ourselves. If that makes sense.
I think a lot of people are suffering from an identity crisis, really. And we do look at other people on social media and want to do what they're doing or be like them. But every person has their own special something to offer the world, and to try to, do it like someone else does it may not necessarily work for the next person. And so I would encourage everyone to, be uniquely you. And in being uniquely you, you bring something that that other person can't do. And they might be looking at you saying, look at Trey, look what he's doing. So just whatever is you in your essence, to bring that forward entirely and to just fully own that, I think is the way to go. And when we have differences, we all bring so much to the table. And in Do Unto Earth, in this book, Do Unto Earth, we actually hit on that. We're talking about unity and peace on earth. And Pax speaks very specifically about how we should look at the differences among our cultures on planet Earth. And it is in those differences that we can find a lot of solutions. And that's, no matter what the topic is, to not try to necessarily assimilate and all be the same, but to look at each person or each group of people for what is different about them makes them special.
I mean, you got questions about 50 years from now. You talk about social media, and Pax, talks about that. Like, I
Yes.
love this book. I think everybody should buy it. Carole, like so let's talk about when you first started channeling. Like, what gave you the confidence to start telling people about it? Like, you were a nurse. Like, my wife is a nurse, and I know that if she's labor and delivery, and she walks into the lunchroom and says, I'm channeling, they might, commit her. I don't know. But, like, how did you come out with so much confidence in that, right? Like, and knowing that it was something that was so special?
Well, I confess, I did not.
No.
Yes, I knew it was special. I felt it in every fiber of my being. Was I brave enough to come out to the world with it? I was not. And that's a great lesson I have learned in this lifetime about being authentic. I was fearful because it's very woo-woo. And since I have here's how serious it was. I didn't even share this with my parents because of their religious beliefs and not wanting to offend. So I kept it to myself. I kept working with Pax. I kept writing. I kept doing the work with individuals in private sessions because they were safe. They were there because they trusted and they believed in spirit channeling. I just didn't share it with anyone I worked with or relatives. But Trey, the day came when I thought, this is ridiculous. That word authentic keeps appearing before me and I'm not being it. So slowly I just started sharing. I would maybe, as I'm signing off an email, pardon me for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would include my email and my website. And I thought, okay, there's a person who doesn't know what I do. And if they're going to check out my website, they'll find out. And, if they're still going to be friendly with me, well, there's a good sign. So it was a bit of a slow process for me. I'm sorry to say. I was not brave enough up front because the whole aspect of being chosen by Pax to do this work was in itself quite formidable to me. I settled into it. We worked as a team. The next stage for me was to kind of go public with it. I regret that I didn't, and my advice for any of your audience is recognize the value in being yourself, your true, honest, authentic self, because each of us is a gift to this world. And if you're put here to do this kind of work, don't hide it. Be thankful for it. And the purpose of it is to share, and we can't share correctly if we're hiding. So it took me quite a while, Trey, but I have to say I kept on the working and the private sessions and the book writing the whole time. I just didn't tell my immediate circle of hobby friends and that sort of thing.
Well, did you ever doubt it? Like, did you ever doubt that that
No,
was,
no,
no, never doubt.
no, no, never did. You know, all my life I've had gifts, and being an empath and being clairaudient and intuitive. And you know, I knew there was something more to come. No, I never did doubt it. And you know, you have read the words of Pax. There's no doubting,
Hmm.
I think, what he shares with us, because it's based on love for mankind, for this planet, and trust, and empowering each of us to function in love and trust. So there was no way I could doubt any of that.
It's beautiful. Penelope, what was it that solidified it for you that you needed to, continue your work with PAX? Like, was there, you said it earlier about the 10 questions. What was it about? Like, what do you remember which question it was that was like, oh my God, like this is legit. Like, this is what I needed to hear. Like, do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one particular question, but I can
What do
tell
you
you.
remember which one you needed to hear? Like I know when I talk to a lot of intuitives or I talk to a lot of gifted individuals, like I have like, questions that I repeat but it seems like each one is different, but it's the same answer. A lot of it's believing in myself and pursuing that I love and trusting in myself. I mean, what is that something similar to you?
Well, I have also been on a spiritual journey for many years, and as a child had a lot of intuitive experiences myself at a young age, and was reading things like Dr. Deepak Chopra as a teenager. So I was an open-minded person in terms of spirituality and metaphysics. And when I came across Carole and this material and Pax, I was already a person who was very open-minded. Now, at the same time, I've met other channelers over the years that after a session with them, I would say, you know, it just, didn't seem like anything that was right for me or that resonated with me, might for someone else, but it just didn't, it didn't stick with me. And I have met some really good um, intuitives and channelers over the years and mediums. And when I had sessions with Carole before we started this work together, and they were just a couple of personal sessions or a few personal sessions, the information then was significant enough that it resonated with me on a deeper level. So I've come to be very in tune with what's right for me or what's not right for me. And so it's, there's a reading between the lines when you are so in practice with doing that, that I just knew that this felt right. And I work in energy. This is the field I work with. And so there was something unspoken and the energy felt right. So when we started getting into writing Due Unto Earth, I was already, trusted in the material, trusted in the source, and had confidence in that. But, truth is, as I would ask questions, I was very curious to know what the answers would be. And, could this source, this universal wisdom, really have the answers for some of these abstract questions of our human origin, questions of human curiosity, how were the Great Pyramids built? How were the stones at Stonehenge moved? What happened to Amelia Earhart? What's going on in the Bermuda Triangle? What happened in 1947 at Roswell? So it's not just a book about the environment, it's that, but also Pax let me have at it, asking all of my curiosities. And I believe in that process. It was just, it was this really special, three beings coming together. And for Pax to just, he didn't stop me at any point as I was asking questions. There was never a time where it was like, oh, you can't ask that. Or I won't answer that. It was extraordinarily eye-opening. And when the answers would come back, all I would have to do is read them and know that they resonated within my soul. And that resonated with me. And, Trey, in university, I took anthropology. So when you have spirit telling you that there's a different source of human origin, and you took anthropology of all things. It's kind of a big pill to swallow,
Well,
right?
that is right. Like that
It
goes against.
is.
I mean,
It
how do you get over
is.
that hump? That's a
Well, I
clash.
don't get over that hump. I do what a journalist does, and that is my background. I'm a journalist, and I ask more questions until I'm satisfied with the answer. And maybe in the back of my head, I thought, oh, I wonder if, this will end up making sense, or if something will sort of just slip up that I just cannot marry with what we think we know, because we really don't know that much in the scheme of things. And that wasn't the case. And so I pursued the questions until I was satisfied with it. And sometimes it just came to a point where it was time to let it go and move on to another topic. So, time and time again, it just sounded right. There's so much wisdom when we talk about environmental repair, the solutions to our plastic problem, the replacement to plastic, solution to desalination of salt water, something we just can't figure out. Just amazing. We're running out of water in so many places, and we have all these oceans of water. It's hard to understand why we can't desalinate water. Well, Pax has an answer for that. Interstellar travel at light speed, the future fuel, which will be a no fuel, meaning that it won't be a liquid, it won't have any mass. We won't have to carry it in a container, it won't have to be in a fuel tank. So asking these questions and getting very specific answers, I've never heard spirit through a channeler speak in such a clear voice as the answers that came back from Pax channeled by Carole. So it's a very special thing. This is a message for all of humanity. It's not for Carole and I, this book. It's a message for all of humanity.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, you're talking about quantum physics in this book. I'm looking at the 0 point quantum vacuum and 0 point energy source.
Yeah,
Things
well,
that
the
I've just
questions just stem from what I work on at the Viralenology Institute.
well, that's
So
what I've been getting into recently.
yeah,
So I've been reading a lot of the energy stuff, right? I just picked up Richard Gordon. I just got turned on to him, and I don't know if you're familiar with his work or not.
I'm
Um,
not, but there's a
uh,
lot of great.
Sure. Yeah, a lot. It's about healing with energy and things
Mhm.
like that, and touch. And I'm very interested to learn more about that. I haven't gotten there yet. Like I said, I stopped like where I was reading because of some of the quotes are just they were resonating with me. I feel
Mhm.
like everybody will resonate with it because everyone it talks about a lot of different paths. So wherever you're at in your path, I think it will definitely like hit you like a ton of bricks, like it did for me. Um, what what topics were you most excited about though, Penelope? Like to talk about, like you said you're a
The most
journalist, right?
excited?
Yeah.
Aliens, of course.
I don't even know if I gotten there yet.
I was a Trekkie. I had Trey, I had the whole, uniform and everything. I had the communicator. I mean, when the movies would come out, the new Star Trek movies, I'd be, the first one there myself. And I have a male cousin who was, I mean, he would be okay if I said he was a nerd. He's now in the Canadian government, the equivalent of the CIA here in America. And so he's a real smart guy. Well, he and I were really into all these sort of things, and we'd be, the first ones there at the Star Trek movies when they came out. So yes, I have a great interest in technology, future technology, as well as extraterrestrial life. And when I got on that topic with Pax, I wasn't quite sure if the questions would be answered. And I thought, well, I'll try anyway. I'll just, see if Pax has something that is necessary to share with humanity, because sometimes it's not necessary, or it wouldn't be for our benefit to know everything. So I appreciate and I respect that. And I have a
I don't know if
sense
I've
of
gotten there yet.
boundary with Pax. So I asked, I asked about Roswell, and I was really surprised actually at the answer, because I didn't think I would get the answer, and the answer in such detail. So I think the question was, you know, um, just, what happened there at Roswell. And I didn't know if Pax would say, oh, it was just a weather balloon, or, oh, that's just because sometimes it would come back that way. I would ask about something really bizarre of our legends. And Pax would actually say, no, just a legend, just your movies. So there were times like that. But when I asked about Roswell, he just cut right to the chase. He said that not only was there ETs and aircraft that day at Roswell, there were eight UFOs, eight extraterrestrial vehicles, not just one. The US government shot one down
Really?
with the intention of trying to steal the technology to reverse engineer it. The other seven just left our atmosphere and went back from whence they came. The one that was shot down, there were beings who died instantly at the crash, and there was one who survived the crash for a period of time. And they tested on this individual, tried to extract information from this individual, and eventually the individual died.
Mm-hmm.
And when that was revealed by Pax, he actually just was speaking of a crash. And so I was still in shock, kind of jaw dropped at the idea that there were eight, and that spirit world is acknowledging this, disclosure from the spirit world. And so I was still in awe of that. And Pax kept sort of just the language, like when you read Do Unto Earth, sometimes you have to reread it. It's kind of like philosophy. You could pick it up 5 years later from the shelf and read it again, I would imagine. So I was, reading some of the answers that had come back a couple of days prior. And all of a sudden I had this light bulb moment. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you're trying to tell me that we shot it down. So he was just saying, the crash. And it's really peculiar that, he said something, paraphrasing here, but really peculiar that this vehicle came from so far away. In fact, another galaxy, he confirmed that these were not from our galaxy, another galaxy light years away. And they came so far and got within our atmosphere, all the way from so far away. And just before, when they're however many 100 feet off the ground inside our atmosphere, they suddenly crash.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to tell me this in hints, but I did notice that Pax would not answer. It would not just give me information unless I asked the question. So I did have to be a journalist. I had to ask the questions, because if I didn't ask the question, and it is a seek and you shall find thing, we're
Mm-hmm.
not made to know something that we don't seek.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pushed on us. So if you want to know, and if you want to develop, if anybody wanted to develop anything, their own psychic abilities, wanted to know more about something, you want to know, what your purpose is, where's this road going with Trey Downs and his podcast, it's the seeking, it's that intention within us that brings the answers. And you'll find, just if you practice that, it rewards you more, and that's how it works. So I did have to ask, and it was like, oh my goodness, are you trying to tell me that it wasn't a crash? And he said, yes, the US military shot it down.
Wow, that's amazing. That is, oof. I don't know if I saw that.
You'll get there.
Yeah, I can't wait. Carole, what about you? Like, what fires you up? Is there a subject or a topic that you love talking to Pax about?
Yeah, there is. And it is not a sensational one at all. It is
It's
about
not sensational.
empowerment.
It's about what?
Empowerment,
Empowerment.
trusting in self, living in love, and bringing love to humanity in an effort to repair this world of ours that's in disarray, that's divisive. It's the hope that people reading the Pax wisdom and guidance can understand that they are empowered. They can do whatever they set their minds to, and to help give some guidance to what it is that we do need right now on planet Earth, to begin repair, because we're coming close to an edge where Pax says we have 8 to 12 years to repair our environmental situation before it's too late.
Mm.
So my particular joy is when Pax is speaking about empowerment for people, because with that, anyone can accomplish anything they set their mind to.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, 8 to 12 years. That's pretty specific. I mean, we got to get our act together for sure. Um, is he always around you? Like, is he always? Do you feel his
Yes.
presence all the time?
No, I don't feel his presence all the time. There are times when I most definitely do. If Pax is speaking, if Pax has some message he wants to get through to me, I will sense his presence and hear him as a thought in my head. No particular words, but there is an urgency. I feel an urgency. And because I channel by automatic writing, I will come into my office and sit down at the keyboard, which I now use, and type out his message. It's not a message for me generally. It's for others. It's maybe was for our books. Um, his presence comes to me when I ask. I am not interrupted by Pax except for these moments when there's some urgency for a message. But I hear about people who are inundated with spirits, bouncing off them, trying to get their attention. That has never been the situation for me, and it certainly isn't for Pax. We have a respectful relationship. Well, it's been 25 years I've been channeling Pax, so we have an understanding, and I recognize the feeling
When was
when
the
he
last time?
wants.
When was the last time he like butted in and gave you a message that you needed to hear or tell somebody?
Yesterday,
Yesterday. What was that?
it was about something that I've been considering doing on my own, which is um, a broadening out of the work I do with people, individuals.
Mhm.
And I channel Pax every day in one form or another. So it's always delightful when he wants to speak to me and there's a message. It happened fairly often when Penelope and I were putting together Do Unto Earth. There might be something that it's like you finished a conversation with somebody, but you're still thinking about it. And then you think, oh, I should have said that. And that would be Pax saying, oh, and by the way, put this in. So,
That's awesome. Um, yeah, you know what I would like to try if he's available and if you could do it. I don't know if you can do it or not. Like what his message would be to my audience right now. Like what would they need to what do they need to hear right now that would help them, whoever's listening.
I think the message right now from Pax is don't give up. Don't feel depressed. Don't feel you are powerless in this time of COVID-19 and all that's happening that has taken so much power away from each of us. Don't feel like there isn't a light at the end of the tunnel because there is. Have patience, trust in yourselves, and trust in your health professionals that they are guiding us in the right direction for how to not only protect ourselves, but protect other people at this time. And that, it comes down to the basics of mask wearing, etc. But that seems to be top of mind right now with Pax is, again, because of his wish to share empowerment, have people understand that they're not alone in this. And also that each person has the ability to go within themselves for their own higher self guidance, which is their soul memories and their soul strength. Everybody can sit quietly and either meditate in a traditional fashion or just sit quietly and think about what they need to um, be able to bring within themselves. Pax said one time in the answer to a question of can anyone channel you, he said, my wisdom is there for the enlightened. Anyone can access it.
Hmm.
Passing that along to your audience, whether it's Pax or any other benevolent spirit, guidance is there. Trust in yourself. You're not alone.
That is powerful. Boom. Drop the mic on that, Carol. Penelope, I keep coming back to this page. It's got my attention. The life cord, excuse me, divine plan. How much do you believe in that? Do you believe everyone has a divine plan?
Me personally,
Yeah.
Of course, I believe everyone has a divine plan, but I also think it's what you plan. So I think that it's all choice. And my idea on that, my philosophy on that is that when we are in the spirit world between incarnations, that we are on a greater journey and we can see the whole picture at that point. And when we incarnate back into the physical, that there is a forgetting, a dismemberment of what we are, who we are, that journey that we're on, what we're about to embark on, the purpose that we wish to set out to accomplish. And through the experience of life in this physical manifestation, we have a great opportunity. Of course, there's a challenge, but the opportunity is to discover and remember with who you are, your greater self, your soul, that mission that you decided that you would set out on. So I would say to look to what your gifts are. A lot of times those talents, those gifts, they point the way. And a lot of people today are looking for, what's my purpose in life? And we all want to know that we have a purpose in life and to know that we are essential and special, and that you have a very specific reason why you chose to be here, and you know what that is. So your soul, your conscious self, not even your unconscious self, your conscious self knows what that is. And you can look to the markers of your talents and your gifts and your passions and the things that make you excited. And that is these little sparks lighting a fire and pointing the way and lighting up this path to what it is you're supposed to do. And I do think that to further talk about what Carole was saying regarding empowerment, I would add to that that trusting in yourself is not just three words. Trusting in yourself is what, speaking to my own journey, it was, oh, let's see, 2006 that I changed everything in my life. I was suicidal on a particular New Year's Eve I think it was 2005 turning 2006. And I had just gone through a breakup. I hated my job. I had a great job, but I wasn't happy. I didn't feel fulfilled. And I was just at that age where, everything's a mystery and an unknown, and you don't want to wait for anything. And I didn't want to, wait for it to get better. And so I just, I wanted to get out of my current situation. So I was suicidal. And instead of killing myself that night, that New Year's Eve, when I was alone in my apartment, instead of doing that, I just spoke out loud to my ceiling, but it was, to who I would call God. You can call it, the divine universe. You can call it anything you want. And I said, if I can just get through this night, if you could just help me get through this night, I will tell everyone how I did it. And so I want to say that how I did it was 2 or 3 months later. I did get through that night. And it was hard. I cried holding, my the side of my toilet on my bathroom floor most of the night, but I got through that night. And then immediately after, I started changing everything in my life. And I like to tell people that sometimes you just need new water in your pond and things have stagnated and you need to change things. And that could be small things, incremental things, but it could also be these quantum leaps. In my case, I had to change everything, Trey. So I moved countries. I left that great job that I was miserable in, and I didn't have a job to go to. And I'm not recommending this for everybody, but it certainly worked for me. And I was like, my choices were either like death or life. Those were my choices. And so I changed everything. I let go of fears. Well, when you do something intrepid, you do it while you're afraid. You don't wait for fear to go away because that doesn't happen. You do it while still being afraid. And that's what I did. I was terrified of what I was going to do and the things I knew I needed to do, that for years I knew I needed to change things and to let go of that job that wasn't making me happy, to let go of relationships that weren't making me happy. And so I changed everything and I set out to start the business that I had wanted to do. I was in the same field I was working in, but I wanted to open my own business. And I did that. So I moved from Canada to Nashville, Tennessee, started my own business, was immediately successful. And immediately, while afraid and broke, had, no money, debt, I literally left Canada with no money. I cashed in what we call in Canada RRSPs, so retirement saving. I had like $4,000, my car and my cat. That's it. I had rented. I had nothing except for this $4,000 and my car and my cat. The car was leased, by the way. And it was scary, but I was alive, Trey. I was happy almost every day. I really was, because everything was new. It was exciting. I felt alive. The visceral feelings of, things that were scary had reward, and it reminded me that I was still alive. So everything changed for me in all the best ways. And there was tremendous reward from taking that risk. So maybe not for everybody. And I would hope that it would be easier for someone else. But I would suggest that sometimes you need to bring new water in your pond because you're stagnating.
Thank you for sharing that. That's got to be tough. I mean, to be vulnerable like that and talk about that, like,
I used to hate talking about that, Trey. I never told my husband that until we were almost married. So we had dated for years. I had also never told my husband that I was a runaway at 15 years old and all of the struggles I had with that. I didn't tell my best friends that I was suicidal and a runaway at 15 years old because it was hard. And like Carole said, when she came out, I like the word she used, she came out with the fact that she was a channel. These things, whether they're gifts or what we think is a marred past, are actually, the beautiful parts of our life. And it is because that story, and because I started writing those experiences into books and sharing it with other people, and articles too, by the way. I was a journalist for mainstream media. And only when I started sharing those things that were horribly hard for me did everything open up, and in all the best ways. And I remember telling my husband for the first time, I think we were engaged actually, but it was before we were married, some of these things. And I don't know what I thought. I thought that he would, see me differently. Um, and of course, that wasn't the case. And
yeah.
the freedom that I've had through sharing has been tremendous. So I would encourage people to do that.
Yeah, I think that because you find your tribe, right? People, everyone's struggling with something. I've had, I struggle with depression. It's something that I've been battling most of my life, and a lot of people are always like, "Can you snap out of it? Just snap out of it." It's not that easy,
No.
right? It's not that easy. It's something that is, I'm aware of my body and what it's doing when I'm in it, but I can't snap out of it. And when you're honest and transparent with people, like, that's when you hit your tribe, because people attract to that. You put out, everyone's so scared to show their true selves because they're so afraid of what society's going to say about them. And, biologically, we are wired through evolution to be a part of the pack and stay with the pack and survive. And it's like those stressors come out whenever we feel like we're going to be by ourselves because people aren't going to like us. But I'm here to tell you, and so Penelope, you can too, is like, the more that you share, the more that you're transparent about your path, the more you're transparent about your life and your aspirations, the more that you'll be able to connect with people and find your people, and they're going to be able to give you that support. I don't know if you can resonate with that at all, but from
Of
my
course.
path, the more that I share, the more that I'm very honest about where I've been and what I've been doing and what my aspirations are, the more that I connect with the people that I need to in the right moments. Like,
Trey, I read a couple of days ago that your vibe attracts your tribe.
I couldn't agree more.
I
I
like
mean,
that.
but see, here's the thing, right? If I never had taken those steps to be vulnerable, to be transparent, to be where I'm at in my path, I would never have been able to connect with you, wonderful ladies and Pax, and I would never have been able to do the things that I've done. And I'm so blessed and I'm so happy to be able to have these conversations, because this is the development that is going to help me, push me, right? To push me in
Mhm.
different, that direction that I need to go. The cord, the meaning in my life. This is what's propelling me in that direction, is having meaningful conversations, transparent conversations with people like yourselves, and with consciousness like Pax, or entities like Pax, that are giving me insight when I need it the most. It's always worked out for me that way, where I'm getting bits of information at the right time in the right moments in my
Here.
life, and trusting that.
And you're sharing that with your wide audience.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
You know, when I started talking about depression and sharing that, I realized that everybody has had depression, you know, including my husband, who, you know, seems like the last person that you would think that has ever suffered from depression, but he did. And there was actually a time when he too felt suicidal. I mean, who would have thought? You know, you look at someone else and you think, no, it couldn't be. There's, you know, there is this stigmatism with depression, and somewhere along the way in our history, we decided that it was like bad or it was shameful. And I think it might have been like a religious thing put on because maybe it was a trickery to keep people from killing themselves. Oh, it's so shameful to even talk about that. And so somehow we've been, you know, enculturated to just keep quiet about that, which is obviously the last thing we should do. I find that, you know, everyone suffers from depression, even if it's acutely, even if it's what they might define as great sadness at a period of time that's difficult. Everyone does. And if you haven't yet, you will. And I think that the people that might experience it more often, I find to be the spiritualists, the intuitives, those that are very connected to their spiritual side and to the spirit world. And I like to philosophize the idea that they are so connected to the spirit world that it's almost hard to have one foot in this world, because maybe they'd rather be somewhere else. Like their soul is not quite, you know, happy here on earth because there's so many other things that their soul needs to do. There's great purpose for them that they feel. And somewhere their soul knows that. And so I would say, like, you got to get on your purpose. And as soon as you get on that purpose, that depression goes away. So again, we're not talking about really clinical depression. I don't want to get into that. But if you feel like this acute depression, like a walking ammonia type thing, this functional depression, and it comes up even often, you might want to consider that it's almost like a sign in a very good way that you're very connected to your spiritual self, that you have a great purpose. And until you get on that purpose, you're probably going to continue feeling this way. So you better figure it out.
I think so.
What are your thoughts, Carole? What else? You got something you want to add to that?
No, I agree. I agree fully. And I love what Penelope said about having a foot in both worlds. It's so very true. And sometimes, well, for me personally, I'm quite happy in this world because I have the gift of Pax with me, and the ability to share his information. That is not the same for everyone. It is a confusing situation for people that are developing their spirituality. But I think that, you know, I have a little card here in my office that I've written out. It says, it's only when you stand in your own light that you can illuminate the path for others. I think that's powerful. And I think that's what we are trying to do, is be our light, be in our light, understand what that light is illuminating in us so that we can share it with others. And perhaps it's the confusion around not knowing that brings a form of semi-depression to people. They don't know why they're here in this world. You know, I do private readings for people that almost always include the question, why am I here? What is my purpose in this lifetime? People really do think about that when they have time to think about that. It's extremely important that people understand why they're here so that they can unwrap their own gifts. Because like Penelope said, when you do that, when you recognize, understand your gifts, you have strength now, you're empowered. You know why you're here and what you're here to teach, to share with others. That's so very uplifting.
Well said. I mean, you think about it, we're on this rotating ball in space. Like we have to be here for some reason. Like we're not here just to suffer and to, you know, to be on Facebook and social media and to worry about what others are posting. And I mean, there is a ultimate plan that we are a part of. But I think that is the plan, is to find that for ourselves, right? Like this is the ultimate. And that was me. Like I was I was doing a lot of that, trying to escape through meditation and trying to not be here But then, like, listening to Ram Dass and meditations and some of the mystical readings, it's like all the mystical readings say go inside. So
Yes.
I would go inside and I would find that place. And it was like everything was pointing me towards this world that we're in. It's like we are human beings for a reason. We are here to experience this form. And instead of trying to escape that all the time, why not try to, as Ram Dass says, take the curriculum. Take the curriculum. You've done, instead of just always trying to be on the other side, like you said earlier, um, one foot in both worlds. And while we're here, take the curriculum, be human, feel everything, the good and the bad. That's just all a part of being human. That's
Mhm.
it, right?
Yes. Shouldn't try
Um,
to hide from it.
absolutely.
I would
So
say that we're here to create, not merely to survive. And if we're looking for a broad purpose, each person has their own, but I would say that the purpose of every person is to create, and you decide what that is. And it's
create. So
whatever
you
you
mean
want it to
like
be.
law of attraction kind of stuff?
No, no, because law of attraction. So in the work that I do with viral energy is another aspect of how energy operates. One of the ways energy operates is through attraction, which is like attracts like. You think of a radio transmitter, a radio receiver. If they're tuned to the same wavelength, they're going to attract. That's attraction. And then there's the other aspect, which is viral energy means it's contagious. So energy is contagious just by marinating in it. So if you go and take a walk in a forest, you come from a busy day in the office, you go sit in a forest for 3 hours, just by doing nothing, just by meditating through the process of osmosis, the passive process of osmosis, the process by which molecules move from an area of high concentration through a semi-permeable membrane, which is us, to an area of low concentration until the concentrations are balanced on each side. That's osmosis. And that's what happens to us. So the more powerful concentration will always win. So in the example, it's the forest. Well, it could also be the news media or, on a floor with 100 other cubicles. The higher concentration will win. It's osmosis, will balance. So there's also that passive experience. And so it's not just the law of attraction, but what's key here is the creation aspect of it. You are here to create. You're most happy when you're creating. If you're not entirely happy, I would suggest, create something else, create something anew, create something more. And through creation, all good things come in my experience. What would you say, Carole?
Oh, absolutely, because it's in the creating that we're finding what it is we're here for. Why, what, we each have it within us, we have yet to recognize it, perhaps. And creating it, allowing it out, and allowing to share with the world, that's the gift, right? That's what you're referring to, the creating and finding what it is that we're gifted with.
I love it.
And it's whatever we say it is, I think. I think whatever it is that you want to do, this is the free will of the human experience. So it is whatever you say it is. It's
Yes.
whatever you choose to create today, what you choose to create this year. And if then you choose something different because this isn't working for you, that's okay too. But create. Whatever you do,
Create.
create.
I love it. Penelope, how can people connect with you?
I would say to get our book, Do Unto Earth, visit paxwisdom.com. We're, of course, sold at all the major places, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, etc. If you're looking for those links, just go to paxwisdom.com, P-A-X, wisdom.com. And we each have our own personal websites. They're linked through Pax Wisdom. Mine is PenelopeJeanHayes.com. Carole's is Carole Serene Borgens.com.
Awesome. Carole, what do you want your legacy to be?
I found my purpose in this lifetime and shared it as I was intended to with Pax to the world.
What about you, Penelope?
To open people's minds to new ideas. And when we open our minds to new ideas, a great amount of harmony and unity comes in this world. So to not assume that we know everything, that our way is the right way, but to open to new ideas. We spoke earlier about the idea of maybe, channeling or that not being accepted. I would say everybody is a channel. Everybody has the sixth sense. Everybody has a higher self speaking to them. So listen to yours. And the more that you listen to it and act upon it, the more gifts you will be given in that area. So I would encourage people to do that. And that takes an open mind.
Well, I'm definitely going to have you guys back on to be continued. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Make sure you guys go out and buy the book, Do Unto Earth. It is not too late to get your copy. So make sure you go check out their websites and get yours today. Ladies, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks, Trey.
Thank you, Trey.